Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode number 240 of the Canadian Football Countdown, a proud member of the Canadian Football Podcast Network and the Alternative Football Network. We're here with another CFL Offseason Roundtable with lots of news from the past week to discuss. We've got a trade, some notable signings, and a few big name releases from around the league. We'll talk about those all here tonight. Ryan here alongside Adam and Trey. First up, Adam, how are you doing this fine evening?
Hey, I'm doing pretty good. I mean, another week of the CFL, and as the great Bob Cole would say, everything is happening. So, gotta do another one of these. Trey, how you been doing today?
Oh, I'm doing fantastic. Can't wait for those Princess Auto giveaways. Maybe it's something, I don't know, whatever they do, but we'll talk about that later. But yeah, I guess it's a good time to tell everyone we tried to get the rights, the Canadian Football Countdown field, but Wade Miller said he couldn't do it. The numbers just didn't work out. So,
yeah. Well, we just gotta wait for Mosaic Stadium to be open.
Mosaic, or we could wait 10 years when the Princess Auto deal's up. But I'm sure we'll still be around.
If there's ever an expansion team, finally, we'll get the naming rights for that stadium, right? No, that'll be the Kevin Glenn Stadium. They'll name it after him after they select him in the expansion draft, like 20 years from now. Just Kevin Glenn and a walker. There goes Adam. Adam had enough. 2 minutes into this, he didn't like my joke. He didn't like my suggestion. He's gone, and he's back.
Howdy.
Little musical chairs here. Now it's a Trey sandwich here. Like it.
Sure. Let's go with that.
With that, yeah.
Is that the food talk to kick off the episode this week? Yeah. I guess it is. There we go. The Canadian Football Countdown is brought to you by our presenting sponsor, Game Time TV. You can learn more at GameTimeTV.ca or Facebook.com/GameTimeTVMB. Check out our Discord community as well for any additional content chatter we've got going on there. Lots of CFL talk leading up to free agency going on there, and NFL playoffs well underway as well. Link is in the episode description. Free to join the Discord if you'd like to join us there. And before we go any further, we do want to acknowledge that the Canadian Football Countdown is brought to you from Treaty 1 territory, traditional territory of the Anishinaabe, Cree, Ojibwe, Dakota, and Dene peoples, and the homeland of the Métis Nation, as well as from Treaty 4 territory, traditional territory of the Cree, Saulteaux, Dakota, Lakota, Nakota, and Métis Nation. Before we get into the news here, a quick reminder, we are 3 weeks away from the start of CFL Free Agency, which means we are also 3 weeks away from our big annual 8-hour CFL Free Agent Frenzy live stream special. February 13th, 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. Central Time. Adam's stretching, getting ready already, getting loose. We will be live for 8 hours of coverage of all the news and everything as it unfolds. And we'll have hopefully a number of special guests joining us along the way. There should be a lot of fun. So we hope you join us for that for the 4th year in a row as a leading source of coverage of CFL Free Agency.
Yeah, should be exciting.
Oh, yeah, I'm ready, boys.
Speaking of CFL Free Agency, let's get into a lot of the news this week that's been leading up to it. We're going to kind of go team by team here, I think, because there is some news from every team around the league. Let's start with a team that has been very, very active this week after being very quiet before that, which is the Ottawa Redblacks, who... about one day, less than 24 hours after Trey and I last week on the show talked about the potential of Drew Brown most likely going to the Ottawa Redblacks and them being the best fit for Dominic Rhymes. Both of those have happened. They have traded for Drew Brown, I believe a 5th-round pick going back to the Bombers. Sounds like Drew Brown, according to Farhan Lalji and among others, is in Ottawa signing a contract currently, likely for 2 years with the Redblacks. They bring in Dominic Rhymes after he was released by the BC Lions. I think a 2-year deal there. I want to say the number was $195,000 or something like that for this year for Dom Rhymes. And then also a busy day and a bit for them here with re-signing wide receiver Braylon Addison, a couple of defensive linemen, Lorenzo Malden the fourth, Bryce Carter, and then I believe linebacker, if I'm not mistaken, Tyrone Vrede. So busy week here for Ottawa. Let's start with the Drew Brown news for them. Trey, we kind of talked last week that this was inevitable. But what do you think about the trade from Winnipeg to Ottawa here?
Yeah, we're lucky we're recording this like 3 or 4 days after it happened because I would have had some more choice words. But yeah, it was the logical thing. The Bombers, even though I pray to Jesus and the Easter Bunny every night for it, they weren't going to get rid of Collaros over Drew Brown, right? So it is what it is. You're going to go with the two-time MOP, Taylor Swift's friend. You're going to go with Zach Collaros, who you're paying, $500,000-$600,000 a year. And, watch him throw for 100,000 yards this year. So it makes sense from that perspective. Drew Brown's going to fit in well. Dominic Rhymes is there. Kind of overnight, did we just kind of see Ottawa get kind of good? Too, you know what I mean? They on paper anyway, that East is interesting. Toronto, there's talk about they've lost a fair bit of coaching and stuff. You never know how that's going to go. Hamilton, we're not really sold on Bo. And sure, Montreal might still be decent, but you never know with that East. So Ottawa really put themselves finally. So we're in January. We're recording this January 23rd. Is that the day? They're looking okay on January 23rd, and I can't imagine they're going to look that much worse by February 13th. Adam?
Yeah, I think that they finally got their quarterback that they needed. If it is Drew Brown, we've seen this though before, that they bring in quarterbacks and end up being duds and backup quarterbacks in that case. I hope this isn't the case. I mean, I still got Arbuckle that tasted in a guy's mouth. That didn't work out for him. We've seen other guys in there. Franklin, I think he wasn't an Ottawa Redblack, was he? I think it was Toronto he went to. But same thing, didn't work out in the end. So you're kind of taking a little bit of a gamble here if you're the Winnipeg, or if you're the Ottawa Redblacks. A fifth-round pick. Again, I always say in the CFL, it don't matter where you pick as long as you're picking in the CFL draft, because a fifth-round pick could turn out to be a Rob Bag. It could be somebody better yet. It's a little bit of a gamble for the Ottawa Redblacks. They had to do something though in the quarterback situation. And I do like it. I do like Drew Brown. I think he's going to be a good quarterback. He's had a few years now sitting behind Zach Collaros, learning all about Travis Kelce and Jason Kelce, what they were when they were in college, how great of a players they were, and maybe also a little bit about how to be a quarterback. So I think it'll be a good move for the Ottawa Redblacks in the end. I hope it will be anyways. But yeah, they definitely improved. I mean, Dominic Rhymes, Drew Brown, all of those are going to help this Ottawa Redblack team.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat as you a little bit. I'm skeptical. I love Drew Brown, and I hope he succeeds, and I want him to succeed in Ottawa, but I do have a bit of trepidation there for the same reason.
Oh, that's a big word for Elmo.
Trepidation it is.
Oh,
I know. I was proud of myself for pulling that one out.
Let me just pull up Webster here, and you guys continue. Sorry.
I was debating whether I was using it correctly as I was saying it, so hopefully I did. But
yeah, you're close. Okay.
Yeah. What's the definition?
The feeling of fear or adulation about something that may happen.
Yeah. So my fear is that it's not going to work out in Ottawa for the same reason of all the guys Adam listed there. Where often it's a question of we haven't seen a ton from him. We saw some games and he looked great in those games. How much of that is raw talent? How much of it is a byproduct of playing with a really good offensive line and a great offensive system with a lot of talent around him, right? So now that he goes over to Ottawa, I'm not sold on moving Ottawa up my rankings quite yet. I think they need to improve their offensive line a ton from last year because Crum had potential. He just had to run for his life every single play. And I think maybe they need another receiver still. Then that could be a guy like Dalton Schoen, who is apparently best friends with Drew Brown and might be able to lure him over to Ottawa. I think they have a decent receiving core to start. Like right now, we're looking at Rhymes, Addison, Jalen Acklin, Nate Bahar, and Justin Hardy is a pending free agent, but let's say they are able to bring him back. Like that's a pretty solid core. but there's a lot of injury question marks and downward trend question marks there that I'm not fully sold on Ottawa's offense here so far. But I do like the pieces they brought back on defense here as well. And I really like the Dom Rhymes addition there to Ottawa. And I think it's a steal they got for him there because the contract size, I believe, I'm trying to find the numbers on it, but I thought it was somewhere around 195 that he was getting from Ottawa. And I think originally he was going to make like somewhere in the 230s with BC, and they asked him to take a pay cut. So that must have been a significant pay cut they asked him to take. And I'm surprised that Rhymes didn't get more on the market. But, a return to Ottawa where he's been before, I believe maybe he has some roots over there in the nation's capital as well. So I really like that addition for them. And I hope the Drew Brown one works out.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it probably you're definitely adding a nice piece into there for an inexperienced quarterback, right? I mean, with Dominic Rhymes, he's been in the CFL. He knows what's going to go on. And you're right, at 195, I think that's a very good deal for – I know it is an American receiver, and you do have quite a few of them out there. And there is a lot in free agency that will be out there. You said one, Dalton Schoen. But this is a team that's also going to lose a guy that I think they were relying on a lot last year in Shaq Evans to be that number one receiver at first. But the injuries, again, with Ottawa last year, that was a big issue. So a guy like Dominic Rhymes that was playing pretty consistent in BC, looked really good in times. I think that's a big pickup for the Ottawa Redblacks. And I think the bit that it'll help a inexperienced quarterback or a quarterback that's used to playing with some really good receivers, that definitely would help. And I still think they need one or two more pieces, though, for the receiving core because you're right. Injuries do happen, and Ottawa seems to be the victim of quite a few of them lately. Trey?
What a logjam at quarterback, though, now in Ottawa, too, by the way, right? Like Drew Brown joins Jeremiah Mazzoli, Dustin Crum, Tyree Adams, Nick Arbuckle, Terrell Pigrom, all in that room. Like, somebody's getting cut. A couple of guys are getting cut there, and I'm interested to see how that works out. Maybe that adds a couple more pieces into the kind of pot of free agents as another one is taken off of the quarterback market here. Quick question for you guys before we move on from Ottawa related to that is we're really thinning out the quarterback market. I mean, Ottawa seemed like the team that was most likely to look for a starter, and Drew Brown was the biggest name. Not a ton of guys left. Which of these, so we're probably looking at backup, maybe 1B slots. Which of these guys would you most want on your team if I list them off here? Let's see. Nick Arbuckle is a free agent. You have to think maybe Ottawa's not going to bring him back now. Kai Loxley, kind of that quarterback wide receiver hybrid. Matt Schiltz is a free agent from Hamilton. Dakota Prukop is still out there. Jake Dolegala is still out there. Tommy Stevens, my list might be outdated. I feel like they re-signed him in Calgary. I don't think he's out there anymore. Dominic Davis, and that rounds out the list there. Let's go to you first, Trey. Have any of these names excite you if you're looking for a backup? I guess Chris Strevler and Taylor Cornelius are the other two potentially out there on the list that weren't on the initial free agent list.
Yeah, I would definitely, now it's Winnipeg, I would look at Strevler. If not, I would definitely try to get Prukop back too. I guess both those guys would know the system and it wouldn't be completely anything new. I thought Kai Loxley would be an interesting one. I kind of mentioned it last time you and I were talking together too, because I kind of liked how he had his that dual position kind of thing. Anyone else? So I know you've been more high on Cornelius. I mean, I guess he might take a backup role because he still has a guaranteed contract, right? That's paying out or however it works. So maybe he will take a pay cut to be a backup somewhere. So I don't know. But yeah, I definitely think any team within reason would want Chris Strevler to some degree. It's hard to say, Adam, get over yourself. It's hard to say no to anyone with NFL experience. Doesn't matter what team they played for. It doesn't matter what team they play for in the NFL. He got more playing time than Aaron Rodgers did, this kind of thing. So I think I would definitely take a look at him. Adam, what do you got, man? Yeah, I think your backup's all fine though, isn't it, in Saskatchewan?
we'll get to that. But, I was going to bring up when you saying NFL quarterbacks that anybody would want. We brought one in. We brought in Vince Young. Where did he go? Yeah. Don't forget also about Michael Bishop. We sent him down the road as well. Anyways, no, if I was looking at any of these backups that are in the CFL right now, you can play the CFL game. I mean, the one with most experience right now is Jake Delgado. I mean, he played a lot of starting reps. He didn't have a great team around him, yet he did have moments that he showed that he could maybe do something. So, you put a good team around him, put a proper O-line in front of him, he might be okay. As a backup, I wouldn't say as a starter by any means. I'd still say if any quarterback ever came back right now, I'd love to see Nathan Rourke back. But
I was going to ask, is he 1,000% with New England next year? Do you think?
I don't think he comes back to the CFL next year. I think he does one more year bouncing around the NFL.
He's going to try it, yeah. One more year, I would think.
But you never know what the new coach in New England now, too. You never know what might happen.
It was a 1-year contract, right? He's done right now, but he'll get signed by somebody. Yeah. It's just a matter of time. But nevertheless, and also NFL contracts don't end until I think after the Super Bowl. So like a free agent.
Well, their free agency is until April. Maybe.
Yeah. So like I said, it's a little ways away, but it was only 1-year contract for Nathan Rourke. But really out of all those, I mean, like I say, Drew Brown was probably one of the better ones on the list there for a while, and he's gone now. Like I say, Jake Delgado's on the list. I think he probably would be okay. Kyle Loxley's an interesting one just because he can play two positions. Does he want to? Seems to be game to do whatever it is to make the feed team. So he might be an interesting pickup as well. But overall, it's pretty thin in the backup quarterback era of the CFL right now. I don't think there's really a whole lot that anybody would say, let's put somebody in and throw them in and let's play them.
Would you guys almost rather get like a random rookie American at this point? Like, you know what I mean? At this point, take the mystery box and see what you get, right?
Well, here's what I would probably do is Matt Schultz is my guy because if I'm looking for a backup, because he is the veteran presence, has been around this league a whole time. He's got more starting opportunities the last couple of years. I think he's a guy that if your starter gets injured, like you can still play decent ball with Matt Schultz at quarterback the rest of the season there if need be. So I'm probably taking a look at him and then trying to grow one of those future stud quarterbacks as a third string option, for example. So if I'm looking for a veteran piece, it's probably Schultz for me. If I'm looking for maybe developing a strong backup, I think Jake Delgado showed a bit of promise here and there last year, and y'all hate me for it. I don't think Taylor Cornelius, I would take a chance on developing him in a better system as well, because as much as he deserves a lot of the blame for their poor offense in those first 8 to 10 games last year, Steve McAdoo's offense was also not a very well-run offense, and I think contributed to that a decent amount. So I think the right system, the right starter, he can fit in as a backup. He's tall enough to just fall forward and get a first down and short yardage. What more do you need? Is how I see it there. But we'll see how that plays out heading towards free agency here. As we move on to which team do we want to go to next here? Trey, pick a team.
Oh, geez. Let's talk about Adam's Riders. They were a little bit busy over the last few days. Got rid of Winicky, re-signed some people. Adam, how do you feel about? Are you feeling fine, or you'd rather feel fine than Strevy, right? So I don't know, man.
Okay, let me run through the news first, and then we'll get your takes here, Adam. Wide receiver Jake Winicky, brought in last year in free agency. He has been released after he was relegated to the bench. They also re-signed kicker Brett Lauder for 3 years, offensive lineman Logan Ferland for 2 years. Quarterback Mason Fine just re-signed earlier today for 2 years, and Frankie Hickson brought back for another year at running back. Adam, what do you think?
Well, first things first, we'll start at the beginning. Jake Weineke, I think he was a great receiver, but he also came in at a very premium price. And at the end of the year, the Riders didn't need him. Pretty simple on that one. We had guys like Sam Emelis and all show up, and that was the end of Jake Weineke. So that was a cap. That was just money management thing. So it's part of the business. It sucks, like we always say, but it's what it is. Brett Lowther, I like that re-signing. That was a good one. He's been a good kicker for quite a few years now. Has he been the best kicker in the league? No, but he's pretty consistent. In Saskatchewan, we don't absolutely burn our kickers, even though some team beside us likes doing that. Winnipeg. Anyways, Frankie Hickson, that was kind of a little bit of a surprise signing, just because I think Frankie Hickson was expected to probably be a free agent. I thought that maybe they would bring back Jamal Morrow. Now I'm starting to wonder if they're maybe going to look at something else, because I thought that he would be re-signed before Frankie Hickson would have been. Logan Furland, again, local kid, offensive lineman. We needed some offensive linemen. I think we only have one signed right now. All of our team, I think, is pretty much free agents right now on the offensive line. Logan Furland did a pretty good job last year, and he's going to grow in. He's a very young kid, so he'll grow into being a better and better offensive lineman as the years go along. And I guess we got one last one to talk about. Mason Fine. Yay, I guess. I have nothing on him, honestly. You know what? If you really think he's going to be a good second, third string quarterback, I think there's better options out there, to be honest with you. I think Jake Dolagala was a better option. Maybe he wanted too much. I think that probably you've got some guys in development, I think, that are a better option than Mason Fine. I don't like what we're doing in our backup side of things. Again, you're one hit away from seeing Mason Fine essentially this year. I don't like it. I think you could have probably got somebody better. Even one of your development guys, Shea Patterson, I think was probably a better option. He's cheaper, I think. And Antonio Pipkin, I don't know. I just, like I said, if you're looking for somebody to run the ball, it's Pipkin. If you're looking to make the third down, if you're looking for somebody to develop, Patterson should be the guy. So those should have been 1, 2, 3. If you did want to move on from Jake Dolagala, and if you didn't want to move on from Jake Dolagala, you still don't sign Mason Fine. So I don't know. It's going to be strange in Saskatchewan, but I don't know.
Here's the thing, the CFL, Trey, your video is doing weird. It's flashing weird things on the screen. It's tripping.
Yeah, I see that. That's okay. Just talk. I'll be back.
All right. See, the thing with the CFL to me is that with how much things change in free agency every year, do you need to develop a quarterback? Do you need to worry about developing a crew? If Trevor Harris goes down, you probably want a bit more of a veteran presence jumping in for this season. And then if he's done for his career after that, you go sign another strong option in free agency. That being said, we just ran through the options that are currently going to be available February 13th, and there aren't a ton of studs available. So maybe it's at a position this year where it's kind of stabled more out in terms of the starters. But I don't think this league, as much as other leagues, is one where you need to develop your own pieces as much, because we've seen teams just buy championships in free agency.
I'll argue that a little bit, because you look at a player like Darian Durant, for example, in Saskatchewan. He was on the Grey Cup roster as a PR guy in 07. He was getting developed in 06, 07, 08, finally got his chance a little bit in 08. They bring in Michael Bishop, didn't work. So they gave Durant another shot, and boy, he sure turned out to be a good quarterback for the Riders. Same thing also with the guy like Anthony Calvillo. I mean, he played for Memphis, got moved over. Montreal, I guess, first the Stallions, I guess, went and developed them a little bit. Then he moved on to Montreal, played a great couple of years in Montreal, and all of a sudden was the guy, and turned out to be one of the best. So this league does develop some quarterbacks over the years, and I think they do a good job of developing quarterbacks. And let's face it, there's other ones that I could bring up. I mean, Henry Burris came out of Saskatchewan, was kind of developing well, went to the NFL, took a shot, came back to Saskatchewan. There's lots of quarterbacks that get developed in this league. I think we've given up on developing quarterbacks a bit, and I think that's why our performance in the play of the quarterback has gone the way it has in the last 2 years. It takes a little bit to get used to a 3-down game. It's not where you can just go and start hucking the ball and get used to cadences and motion and everything else. It's a lot weirder than the NFL game. To be honest, I think it's easier to throw a football in the NFL than it is probably in the CFL, just because of the rules. Doesn't mean the best ones come to the CFL, obviously. But, I mean, I think if you put somebody out there from the NFL, they'd be just confused as all heck if you throw them right into the Grey Cup, right? So, to me, like I said, I think that this league needs to still develop quarterbacks. I hope they work somewhat with Shea Patterson, at least try to get him developed. They put some effort into Jake Dolegala. I don't know why they're maybe walking away from it unless it's money. I like I said, I still have the belief you got to develop a CFL quarterback. Trey?
I don't know what to go here. You said a couple things that I want to argue with, but we don't have time for that. We'll talk about it maybe when we have 8 hours on free agency, because I don't know if I'd blame the teams necessarily for the lack of. I just think people don't want to come to the CFL, honestly, as much. They'd rather hold a clipboard or go back to their dad's concrete company than come up here. But, I mean, that's another day. I think I kind of do understand, though. I would go – I kind of agree with Adam, though, to some parts, where I would rather go with the mystery box and pick up a guy for $50,000 that's never heard of Saskatchewan before and see what you got, right? Because that's what Henry Verse was at one point. That's what Kafil was. That was Caleros at some point. That was every American quarterback in this league at some point was some guy that had never heard of the CFL or anything before. So that's where I would kind of go. And I think that we are losing that, yes, but there's still guys. We saw that, like, got those second, third stringers on Hamilton and Ottawa. They weren't terrible. They were okay. Are they going to be the next Caleros? Probably not. But you have to test them out to find out. Now, Nathan? No, Mason Fine. Mason Fine is, I would have probably rather went with Dolegala, Patterson, Pipkin, or tested my luck with Strevy or whatever, saw something before. I know, Adam, what you're coming from, but I don't know.
Yeah, I get it. I forget where I read this or earlier on social media. Like, I've been a Mason Fine supporter. I wish he would have gotten his job back initially after he got injured last season. But he has been around there for a little while. He hasn't taken that step forward to the starter yet at this point. So it seems like he's kind of in that career backup role. So, is keeping the status quo the good path forward for them? Yeah, I agree. There could be some argument there on that decision at quarterback for the Riders here. But with so many injuries in the league, honestly, like, get a veteran backup and then get the young gun third string. Like I was saying earlier, you'll probably have to play both of them and somebody else yet to come the end of the season with starters and backups and third strings all getting injured. The other interesting one for the Riders for me was Frankie Hickson re-signing, like you talked about. I want to know what the plan is there, because I was pumped for him coming into this year. Adam, you put him in your top 5 running backs in the CFL coming into the season. We hardly saw him see the field, which was surprising to all of us. I want to know what the plan for Frankie Hickson is and how Jamal Morrow's involved in that too, as well, as you mentioned. Let's move on to another team here. Adam, your turn to pick a team.
Yeah, let's move on to the big trade and the big moves over for the Edmonton Elks this last week. Made a blockbuster trade involving Curly Gittins Jr. and also involving Jake Serezna. Trading places. Guys, I think this was probably a massive, massive deal. Usually don't see this very often where you trade a top quality defensive lineman for a Canadian receiver. Most times Canadian receivers are well wanted from anywhere. Edmonton obviously had a need for one. But Jake Serezna, I think, is going to be an all-star defensive lineman for many of years here. What was your guys' thoughts on this trade, first of all?
I mean, Toronto's defense gets a little bit more scary. They already had a pretty tight D for most of the year, and now they got another guy on the defensive line. Gittins, maybe I was wrong, but I feel like he wasn't utilized as much as he could have been near the end. Like, we kind of had him high up in our receiver rankings. I think I took him pretty early in our fantasy or something, or I kept him, and he just didn't really pan out. But I mean, maybe he just has a better connection with Bethel Thompson, and that's what he's hoping for. And on the other side, I think Edmonton's offense might be a little bit more scary this year. I'm not saying crossover or playoffs, but Bethel Thompson, he still won 2 championships, or did he win? He didn't win the XFL, but he led the league in passing yards, and he won the Grey Cup, right? So regardless of the league, he's not a bad quarterback. Now he gets one of his familiar faces back. You still have Trey Ford as your safety net. You'd hope that Chris Jones can do something on defense and that they can put together a decent football team there, right, Ryan?
Yeah, Trey and I think, talked about this quite a bit last week on the podcast as well. So if you want more extensive thoughts, go back and listen to that episode also. But my general thought was this was a good deal for both sides. I think it fit a need for both teams here. And fun to see a big trade of that stature in the CFL. Adam, we didn't get your reaction last time, though. Any other thoughts on that one for Edmonton and Toronto?
Yeah, I think it's trying to help a long-suffering fan base a little bit. You look all of a sudden at that Edmonton offense. Wait, that's a dangerous offense. All of a sudden, you got Eugene Lewis in there. You got Dylan Mitchell, who, yes, I'll admit, he had a bad year last year. I think he's going to recover from that. You've got Curly Gittins Jr. now, alongside of, again, Kyron Moore, who had a really good year last year. And there's a few others in Edmonton. Suddenly, and again, you still have Kevin Brown in the backfield. And that Edmonton Elk offense looks really interesting, especially with McLeod Bethel-Thompson coming in as well. For Toronto, I think this is a move that they needed to make because I think they know that they're going to be losing a few pieces to free agency in the defensive side of things. I think that they know the writing's on the wall for some of their guys. I don't know where they're going to go, but it's looking more and more like Toronto's going to lose a few pieces. So nice trade to make. If you're going to lose Curly Gittins Jr., I don't know if he was a free agent. I don't think he was. I think he still had a year left on his contract or something. So I think it was more of a trade that, you got a good lineman in Jake Sresna. And if you really didn't plan on, if it didn't work out with my brain just had a brain fart. In Toronto, if it didn't work out with Chad Kelly and Kyron Moore or Curly Gittins Jr., my brain is just fried today. Anyways, if it didn't work out with those two, you may as well move on from them, get another piece in there that you could really use. And I mean, they got top pick for both. So I think it's going to help both teams in a way. Be a good trade.
Touching on the other news here for the Edmonton Elks side from this week, it came out today, a couple of hours ago. Defensive back Ed Gainey released by the Elks here. So, they made a couple changes on the defensive side of the ball. They released Ed Gainey. They released, who else has it been? Aaron Grimes, Adam Konar. We talked about those a week or two ago as well. And now with Sresna going over to Toronto, seems like, okay, Edmonton maybe is going to be relieving some cash to focus on upgrading that offensive line, which is what I really want to see should be their focus point, and upgrading the offense. I just hope they're not trending too far in that direction of cutting these notable pieces on defense, because then are we going to be in a situation where offense is much better, but now the defense takes a step back in 2024? What do you think, Trey? How do you balance that?
I don't know. I like to think that Chris Jones kind of knows what he's doing. I don't know. He must to some degree. I don't know. Edmonton's not – the defense isn't my concern. I just feel like their offense just needed to be a little bit better. But I just had a thought. Let's say – I mean, I never would wish an injury on anyone. But let's say McLeod Bethel-Thompson does go down. When was if ever, can we think of a Canadian quarterback and Canadian receiver duo? Would that not be cool if him and Gittins Jr. Linked up a little bit? But no, I'm not too concerned. And one other quick question or comment or whatever for you guys. I lost my notes here. Someone was texting me in the Discord. I think it was our buddy Richard, and I had to respond to that. But we were talking because he's mad about me not believing in home field advantage. So I gotta defend that. Where's my thing here? They lost. Stephen Dunbar went to the UFL. Are we at all? What do we think about that league? And I know we have our new friends in the Alternative Football Network that maybe we should talk about a little bit more. I see their 5-hour broadcast talking about the UFL on Twitter all the time. What do you guys think? Is this more concerning that they're together, or is it less concerning now because it looks like they're crumbling?
I'm not worried one bit about them, to be honest with you. The CFL has been around for over 100 years. It's a well-established league. It's not really a spring league. It's more of a summer league. It's not at the same time as them. To me, I'm not worried. As for the receiver that you're talking about that went over to the UFL, he had a 593-yard season this last year.
That was it, really?
Yeah, it wasn't like really impressive here. 536 yards, 5 touchdowns, 39 for 64. So right around 50% in his completions. I mean, don't get me wrong. I hope the best for Stephen Dunbar Jr. Hope he does well. But I mean, to me, it's not a big loss. The Houston, I think, picked him up. I hope they do well with him, and I think they will. I wouldn't be too concerned if I was a CFL fan. You also got Curly Gittens Jr. to put right in his place, and he looks, I think, I'd take Curly Gittens Jr. over Stephen Dunbar any day, essentially. As for the Ed Gainey stuff, he's getting up there in age. I mean, it's kind of that problem once in a while again with the business of football. They just re-signed Lucas Purifoy to a big contract. I think that there was kind of a little bit of a cap victim, a little bit of an age victim. He might end up, I don't know where he'll end up. My vote would maybe be, there's a few guys that need defensive backs. Saskatchewan, one of them. Or he might end up in Toronto. It depends on what all moves over there. The other place I could see him maybe also is in Hamilton. Hamilton usually could use a few good defensive backs. Last year they were suspect of the big ball too. So Gainey's still a good serviceable defensive back. I think just maybe Chris Jones, and I can get anybody anywhere, and could be just the arrogance of Chris Jones.
On the Stephen Dunbar thing, I'm a little surprised to see him leave the league so quickly, and that is the nature of these other leagues. We are going to see a couple guys. I don't think it's enough. I'm with Adam. I don't think it's enough to really make a dent in the CFL, so to say, because when the two separate leagues, there were more opportunities, I guess, because they've narrowed the number of teams down, and not a ton of guys left in that sense either. But Dunbar, this season didn't quite go well. It didn't go well for the entire offense for half the season there. But in Hamilton, I think the year before he had like 1,000-yard season or something like that. He was looking really good. Wasn't it him, Braylon Addison, Brandon Banks, and wow, Hamilton had a stacked receiving corps because there was Jalen Acklin, there's Tim White back then. No wonder they made it to the Grey Cup a couple of years in a row there. So, Dunbar kind of stepped up, though, really well with Hamilton. Thought he was going to be a huge addition for the Elks last year, and it just didn't pan out the way we all expected it to. And I think he's still a very talented receiver, and, he'll take a shot in the UFL. And if anything, they play at different times, and we might lose some pieces off to the league, but we might get storylines like the Darnell Sankey. Who knows if he plays in that league and then comes in and wins a Grey Cup and double championship later this year as well. There's always the opportunity for fun storylines like that. So sucks though to see a promising piece leave.
I just want to make one quick thing that I saw today. The Rock was appointed to the board of directors of TKO Group Holdings, which is the parent company of WWE and the merge with the UFC. So if he still has a connection with the UFL, I just wonder what that could bring. I know Vince McMahon was the original XFL guy with WWE. I'm not saying it's going to be bigger. I'm just saying it's more pockets. He could go to Dana White in the UFC. He could go to WWE and maybe have a little bit more help. But I don't know. They're trying. I'll give them that. They're definitely trying to keep it on. And to anyone listening, maybe go visit our friends at the Alternative Football Network if you want to know more. Right?
Yes, absolutely. Lots of great coverage of the UFL and other leagues from the other shows on the network, so check it out. AlternativeFootballNetwork.com or at the official AFN on X. I think that's everything we've got on the Elks. Let's move over to talk about the Calgary Stampeders next. I'll take the next team here and go with Calgary. They've been active this week. They've re-signed defensive lineman Julian Hauser, fullback William Longley, Elliot Graham as well. I think he's a linebacker, if I'm remembering correctly, and they've signed Adam Konar at linebacker, who was let go by the Elks. And then the big one dropped today. John Hufnagel is stepping down as the president for the Calgary Stampeders. He's still going to be involved in football operations, but he's stepping down from the president role. Adam, what did you think about that news?
Yeah, well, first of all, Danny Austin, good on you for letting Calgary announce that John Hufnagel is going to be going away and riding off into the sunset, sort of. That's really nice, classy reporting, because the guy went and put yesterday, there was big news coming out of Calgary. He could have blown it right out and said what it was. He knew what it was, but I guarantee that the guy actually went and held off because of who it is and who it's been. And he does deserve that, John Hufnagel. He was a great coach. He was a great player for the Stampeders back in the day. He done it all, John, and it's nice to see him kind of get his day and move on to the new president. I've not really heard much of him. Hufnagel did say he's a great guy and expects him to do great things for the Calgary Stampeders. So I can't see why not. I mean, they're in pretty good hands, I think, with Dave Dickinson still in charge of the general managing and the coaching of the team. I think Dave deserves maybe a little bit better fate than they had last year. But overall, good on John Hufnagel. I think it was the right time, probably the right place to do it. And let's see what the new guy can bring in for football ops. And he's got a little bit of a challenge. I mean, he's got to get somehow working on a stadium plan eventually for McMahon Stadium, I think, is one big problem that is going to come onto him. And get some fans back in Calgary, because last year we seen that their fan attendance was definitely down from years past. So, but yeah, and as per today, good on John Hufnagel. Glad he's going to be able to go and do what he wants to do. He's still going to be a part of the team as an advisory, I guess, but mainly, kind of just sitting back and watching.
A couple quick notes to correct myself. Elliot Graham is a defensive lineman, not a linebacker, so my apologies on that one. And new president for the Stamps, Jay McNeil, joined them 2022 season and has been their vice president of business operations. So he takes on more of a role, and Hufnagel is going to be more of an advisory role now. Trey, what do you think?
I just was hoping that, I can't remember who it was, but someone tweeted that the big announcement was McMahon Stadium was going to install the Bombers' old field turf or whatever, and I thought that would have been hilarious. But no, other than that, I think it was time. You got to have new ideas. I don't think he did anything wrong specific. That's the crappy thing about sports. You don't necessarily do something wrong. You just didn't do perfect, and in basketball, some coach got fired in his rookie year, and his Milwaukee's the second best team in the league. Like, what the hell is that, right? So, I mean, you got things like this, and it's good to still have them around, and move on.
Yeah, I like having Hufnagel in kind of more of in Dickinson's ear a little bit too, as he's also taken on more roles within the organization there a little bit. So more division of responsibility means everybody's able to do their job a little bit more. I think I question that whenever we see GM and coach, and just if one guy's taking on two roles and doing them at the same time, he's kind of dedicating half his time to each instead of having a dedicated man for them. In terms of the moves for the Stamps, I mean, three big pieces on the defense side there. Calgary is a team we don't see that active in free agency each year. I really wonder how that will change this year, or if they're, because they had the rough season, or if they are going to be a team that had a lot of injuries and they're banking on guys recovering from injuries and taking another step forward this year. I don't know. Anybody have any thoughts on that?
I hope they don't, because I don't think they had the talent last year, even when they had the entire roster there. Although, for me, I think most of it was on their quarterback. I didn't think Jake Mayer was ready to be a starting quarterback, even though I took him pretty high in the draft as well last year. He proved that he wasn't ready, essentially, I don't think. End of the year, he did a little bit better, but by the end, it was already too little too late. Yes, they had a pile of injuries, but that was on the receiving side of the football. These defensive signings, I think Aaron Grimes, you're going to see in there. If I'm not mistaken, it was Grimes that signed in with Calgary, right?
It was Konar, not Grant.
Oh, Adam Konar, sorry. Konar, I think, will be probably a big piece into Calgary's defense. I think he's going to be probably a big part and definitely going to be a starter for game one. You look at some of the other pieces they signed, they need to bring in some more players. And I don't know if maybe the talent pool is drying up a little bit and finally they're not maybe going to be this scary Patriot-like team that we're used to. We're seeing a transition in all of football right now. And Stampeders are one of those teams, I think, that are starting to have to change the way they do things. So
now the Patriots are a scary team for a whole nother reason.
Oh, yeah.
The opposite way.
But anyways, so in other words, if you're Calgary, don't draft a quarterback in the first round. It doesn't work well. Ask Mac. Anyways, no, like I said, Calgary, I think they need to start developing again. They usually always have a great depth pool. I think it's starting to run a little light. So this is why the signings are happening. You're right, Ryan.
Absolutely. Trey, you want to pick the next team here, or do you have any final thoughts on Calgary, or do you want to move on to the next one?
Let's move on. Who haven't we talked about yet?
BC, Winnipeg, Toronto, Hamilton, Montreal.
Oh, God. Let's talk about Winnipeg, I guess. What's the biggest news? They re-signed Drew Wolitarsky to 2 years. They renamed the stadium Princess Auto Stadium. And they brought in a kicker. I saw that was a little bit of news on X today, because is Castillo's time done, or is that just insurance? Because I'm sure he'll want more money, and you take the rookie kicker. Ryan, as the other Winnipeg guy on here right now, how do you think 2 more years of guitar hero Drew Wolitarsky?
I think it's great. I think Drew Wolitarsky is a very solid, underrated piece, especially filling that Canadian receiver role. And I'm happy to see him back. Apparently he signed the contract in Australia where he was at for his wedding with best man Chris Strevler. So that's a fun story that maybe we see that connection reunited this year. We had no official news on that yet, but 2 more years with Wolitarsky. I think that's a good job. Well done by Kyle Walters there. I kind of wonder, I notice all of these deals they're signing are 2 years, and they're hosting the Grey Cup in 2025. And that also happens to be how long Zach Collaros is under contract. And I don't think that's a coincidence. I think they're going to try to keep the core of this team while bringing in a couple fresh pieces in place to try to keep running it back to get to the finals until they're done hosting the Grey Cup at home. And then come 2026, when we're going to, I think, see the team look pretty different here. Do you guys see it the same way?
Yeah, I do. I mean, you look at what this team is. I think if they can bring back Dalton Schoner, bring back any of their other guys, they're going to be happy and just try to keep this going. At least, you're right, for 2 years. They want to try to host a Grey Cup at that Princess Auto field. Then
Stadium,
it's going to be
Adam, Stadium.
Get it right.
Get it right, man.
Oh, yes, it's not IG Field anymore. Now it's Princess Auto Stadium.
Yeah.
Anyways, at PA Stadium, they're going to go and they're going to have probably a pretty good run there. And then it's going to be like the surplus section in Princess Auto. They're just going to be dumping everything after that. So at usually discounted prices, hopefully, because all the other teams need it. Wolitarsky is a great signing for them. I still remember that glitch catch that he made that time when Collaros just absolutely just put it right in his hand as he was running full speed.
I don't think that was
Wolitarsky. That wasn't him. That was Dressler, I thought.
Ryan Smith.
Was it Smith?
No,
okay.
No, yeah. It was Wolitarsky.
No, Adam, we're going to roll back the footage on this.
No, yeah, we got to roll it back. I know it was Wolitarsky.
Is this one of those Mandela effects, man? Because we all had someone different. I know Dressler made some stupid catch. Maybe it wasn't him, but I don't think it was Wolitarsky.
All right, check the Discord channel, Adam. Here's the YouTube or the ESPN clip. This is the one you're talking about.
Okay.
Let's just take a look, but I'm sure it was like just one weird catch against.
Well, Adam reviews the footage to
Yeah.
believe that I'm correct.
You can tell from the picture it's not.
Yeah, it's I'm right here. I nice try.
Wolotarski's made better catches over the years, though, and I mean he has been a big part of this team. He's guy like Brendan O'Leary Orange or some of the others in this team. I mean, back in the day, they would have called this a Chris Jones pre-practice roster team because they got a lot of receivers in that core in Winnipeg. Kenny Lawler even took, I think, what was it, a pay cut here just recently, just so they can get a few more guys under contract. He restructured or whatever. So yeah, they're doing what they can to make sure they got a great team going ahead this year, but mainly for 2025 because that's the one they really want to win.
I do wonder about a guy like O'Leary Orange, who is now the third guy once again at Canadian wide receiver because Dembski's still in Winnipeg and Wolotarski. O'Leary Orange is a free agent. Like we've seen some flashes when he's gotten an opportunity, but he really hasn't gotten a ton. Do you stick in the system and hope one of these two gets injured, or do you look to free agency if you're a guy like that, Trey?
If I was Winnipeg, I'd try to keep him because, like you said, you got two, and one isn't a traditional Canadian position. So I don't know. It would all matter on roster size, right? Like if you're able to have another guy on defense, you have Dembski's backup an American, and then you let O'Leary Orange go, and then you get a rookie guy to fall in under Wolotarski, who's I can't remember him being hurt too much over his tenure here in Winnipeg. I checked his ID once. It was fun. He's like, oh, I'm with the band. And I was like, I don't care, man. I gotta check your ID. And then I looked at his ID and I said, oh, screw the band. You're a Bomber. Get in there, man. And I realized who it was. But no. Yeah, I would try to keep him if we were playing Madden right now with the Blue Bombers. I would keep him, but I could see where he'd want to go elsewhere.
I guess, the piece of news for the Bombers was that Drew Brown trade, which we kind of talked about earlier, that it was a given he wasn't going to be back in Winnipeg. And I think getting a 5th-round pick back for him, it might not work out, but it's better than nothing, which if they didn't make that trade, they were going to lose him for come February 13th. So I think that's just a logical move to make on the Winnipeg side of things. And we'll see what other moves they make before they take the field at Princess Auto Stadium for the first time. Did you review the footage, Adam? Was I right?
I will neither confirm nor deny it. Ryan Smith, former Saskatchewan Roughrider Ryan Smith, at least make me feel better.
Yeah, he was a good receiver for a couple of years there. Yeah.
Yeah. Same with Dressler. Then he went to Winnipeg.
He was still pretty good in Winnipeg as well.
I didn't mind Dressler.
Yeah, he had his moments.
That was a pretty good quarterback in Winnipeg too.
Hey, he got his money's worth for sure. All right, which team do you want to go to next?
Why don't we go to the Toronto Argonauts? I think a few things have gone on over there. I know that they've released a offensive lineman, Darius Blaydick. Demetrius Maxey is their D-line coach now. And Dominic McCard, interesting, is their running back coach now in Toronto. Offensive lineman as a running back coach. That should be interesting. Anyways, what do you guys want to start on first? Probably the release of Darius Blaydick.
Yeah, that offensive line was amazing last year, right? They crushed it in Toronto. They gave up the least sacks in the league. I want to say it was under 20 for sure, or something like that. And I thought he was an important piece of that. So I don't know. I mean, it's a team with a lot of depth. The Argos had a heck of a ton of injuries last year too, and still finished with a 16-2 season. So they've got the depth, and maybe they felt that was an area they could cut the cash to maybe spend a little bit more in free agency, because I think they're going to have to spend a lot on the defense with all the pieces they're going to lose there.
I think when you look at what they just lost there, they lost a Canadian offensive lineman. I won't say nothing, but for what team should sign him, it might be above my head right at the moment. They should probably bring him back, seeing as they should have never let him go to begin with. This was a 2nd-round draft pick by the Roughriders way back in the day. He was a great offensive lineman when he was in Saskatchewan. All of a sudden, he just disappeared, went to Toronto. And I'm not sure why. I don't know what the story is. But boy, if there is a team that needs a offensive lineman and a Canadian offensive lineman, it's Saskatchewan. And Darius Bladek will make a great addition to that line. So please, if Jeremy O'Day is watching our podcast, first of all, thanks for watching. Second of all, maybe go and phone Mr. Bladek's agent because you better go get him or this province may just burn.
Also, Jeremy O'Day, if you're watching, let us know if you have any free time on February 13th between 9 and 5. I have a feeling you might be busy that day, though.
For the love of gosh, I hope he's too busy.
Yeah, maybe as an intern he could send our way at least, or we could talk to Gaynor. I don't care, Yeah, Toronto's interesting. I don't know. I'm not too worried about Toronto. Yeah, you don't ever want to lose offensive linemen that are Canadian like that. But it's good to see they're kind of picking up some coaches because then they lose a couple to Saskatchewan, right? So, and Dominic Picard. I'm trying to think of Star Trek jokes that I can't think of just with Picard, but yeah, I don't know.
Greatest offensive lineman Canadian you'll ever meet.
Well,
Canadian.
Well, that's the thing. Again, because again, the best running back coaches sometimes are quarterbacks because they need to know where everyone is. I mean, the old linemen know what holes need to be open, and they might know what holes they'd rather the running back run through, too, right? And kind of thing. So it's not. It'd be weirder if he was a defensive lineman or maybe a quarterback, and or they got Gaynor to do it, but I don't think it's that big of a deal.
It's similar to what we've seen when we talked about the Riders coaching staff last week, where they had defensive linebackers that are running back coaches and vice versa or whatever, right? So I think we're seeing more and more of that it's not the traditional, I played this position, so I must coach this position. And a little bit of extra insight from the other side of the ball could go a long way. I think for some of these teams here as well. Let's move. Anything else on the Argos here? If not, let's move over to. We'll probably move quickly through these remaining teams because there's not a ton to talk about here. But BC, we talked a lot about them last week. Some of the moves they made at wide receiver, and they made one more that we were kind of expecting them to make, which is Javon Catoy brought back. He's one of their go-to Canadian receivers. A 3-year contract extension for Catoy in BC, which feels like a pretty notable one to me. He came on strong as a big name receiver for BC, kind of took a backseat role a little bit the last couple of years just because of all the talent they've had there, but he can certainly deliver some big games of his own. And a 3-year deal for the Canadian wide receiver. We're seeing more of these 3-year deals. You have to think, I don't know it for sure, but I'm wondering if there's guaranteed money in this contract for him because he's been with the team long enough that he would qualify for it. What do you guys think about Catoy back with BC? And in general, I feel like there's more of these 2-year, 3-year contracts and less of the 1-year. Are we going to be looking at our February live show in a couple of years being a lot slower of a day as these guys are starting to sign longer contracts? What do you think, Trey?
Oh, I still wouldn't buy any jerseys with players' names on them at this point. But no, it's good to see. I was thinking a 3-year deal for a non-quarterback seems a little strange, but it's good to see. It's something we've been bitching about for years. We want players to have those deals and be more recognizable and stuff. Because, sometimes Canadian football, CFL free agency is because everybody's on a 1-year deal. They're technically all free agents come February, right? So, no, I like it. I think BC still is very well in contention as of now, my way early predictions, right? So I like it. Adam?
Yeah, I'm not a big fan of this one, to be honest with you, and there's a reason. They got Justin McInnes there, and I think McInnes is probably the better option for giving a little bit more of a longer-term contract to than Javon Catoy. Catoy's had his moments in BC. He's had some good receiving moments, but he hasn't had any of those real breakout moments like we've seen a few with Justin McInnes last year on a big couple catches. So I think myself, I would probably have went with McInnes, I think McKinnis has still got another year on his contract, if I'm not mistaken. But Cotoy, I don't know. I never was sold on him. I brought him in one time, I think, on my fantasy because I was desperate for a Canadian receiver. But overall, I don't know. A 3-year deal, if you got a guy like a quarterback or maybe a kicker, again, Brett Leather, we just seen him sign a 3-year contract. So maybe it's starting to break where some other guys are going to get 3-year deals. I think Lucky Whitehead is coming off of a 2 or 3-year deal. So I guess, BC sees something in him. Not a bad signing. I'm not sure what he's getting paid exactly, but he's got some guaranteed money not maybe guaranteed, but he's got some 3-year. He knows what he's doing for the next 3 years, at least right now in BC. So I don't know. Not a bad deal, I guess.
My guess would be that they'll use both guys, Catoy and McInnes. I think it'll be 2 Canadian wide receivers in the set, and they were pretty mumuch doing that for a lot of last year when Rhymes was injured, right? So, but yeah, in terms of the long-term plan, I do like what McInnes brought last year in that role, but it seems like they're pretty fond of Catoy over in BC as well. I'll just take us through these next 2 teams here because there's not a whole ton to debate on them. The Hamilton Tiger Cats, let's go there next. The only move this week is fullback Felix Garon-Gauthier brought back on an extension there. So I don't personally have a ton to talk about. He's been their starter, one of them at the fullback position for the past couple of years, I believe. So a mainstay there, brought back for another season for Hamilton. I guess to bring up a bit of an interesting discussion topic for the Ticats, so we don't just move on here. Notable man that has not signed a contract yet, 2 of them actually. One is Tim White at wide receiver, and one of them is Simone Lawrence at linebacker. You know what, at receiver, I'll throw in Terry Godwin, Hamilton's top 2 receivers still unsigned. Guys like Lawrence that have been mainstays for many years on the defense, not signed yet. Any concern that Hamilton hasn't gotten these guys wrapped up yet from either of you? Adam?
Yeah, Godwin and White have to get re-signed soon. That's big for Hamilton. Especially Tim White. He got them pretty much any yards they almost had last year. It's no question you got to get him re-signed some way, somehow, because otherwise he's getting another 8 phone calls the moment that the tamper window opens up in free agency. Terry Godwin would be another one. Yeah, he needs to be re-signed right away as soon as you can. Has looked really good. Has flashes at the end of the season there where he looked extremely good for the Ticats. So both of those need to be redone. I'm not worried about Simone Lawrence, to be honest with you. Linebacker, unless it's the first game of the season, sometimes he kind of just drifts away. I don't know. I'm not a big Simone Lawrence fan right now. I think age is starting to get to there. I think that Hamilton and him will get something done eventually. I don't think he's going anywhere. And I think both the team and him know it. So I don't think that's a priority. I think right now the priority's got to be on the receivers. Trey?
I don't even know what Hamilton's doing after restructuring Bo, so I'm not even too surprised, honestly, that they're still messing with us. With Simone Lawrence, even, maybe his play's not there, but I feel like Hamilton loves him, right? Like they seem to embrace him. He's a locker room guy there, probably. It sounds like he's a community guy there. Like it would be like the Bombers losing Big Hill kind of thing. It would kind of be like weird in that aspect. So I think he will get done. And the receivers, Bo is going to have someone to throw to, so they're going to have to sign one, if not both of them, or really hope for Schoen or something crazy in free agency, right? So. See.
Yeah, I think if not this year, in the next year or 2 for sure, Hamilton's a team we're going to see the changing of the guard. Like this has been an older team, especially on the defensive side of the ball. In recent years, you look at a couple of names like Chris Van Zyl on the offensive line. You look at Ted Laurent on the defensive side. Like these are guys that are going to hang up the cleats, or they're going to, the team's going to start parting ways with them. We're going to see younger pieces come in. The Ticats, I looked at their free agent list just now. It is long. There's 38 guys on that list, and only 5 or 6 of them have been extended so far. So lots of time still to go, but we could be looking at a very different Ticats team coming into next season. The last team we have to talk about here, the defending champs, the Montreal Alouettes. A couple of key re-signings for them. Defensive back Najee Murray, defensive lineman Avery Ellis, and running back Joshua Nantwi brought back on another one-year deal. And Adam, any thoughts there?
Yeah, the only one would be on Joshua Nantwi. Good Canadian running back. I think that they are going to be moving on from William Stanback this year. They're bringing in a lot of receivers. I just have a funny feeling that that's going to be a change. And, there is a certain amount of running backs that are available right now that probably Montreal would love to have. If it's Brady Oliveira, if it's Jamal Morrow, maybe. I'm sure one of the guys in Calgary, if it's Dedrick Mills, or if it's Kadeem Carey, one of them might become available as well. There's some good running backs available in this thing. Also, AJ Ouellette, I didn't even bring him up, and boy, he looked good last year. So I think it's again, I hate to keep saying it, it's age, but William Stanback's probably one of the older running backs in the league right at the moment. I think it's his time. He's probably going to look at free agency. He'll probably get picked up by someone pretty easily, but I don't think it'll be the Montreal Alouettes. Trey?
Yeah, I think that's a big signing there. Antwi, I like that one, and Montreal, they're going to be probably I feel like the team that just wins always tries to stay together as much as possible. I know there's always a couple of guys that try to get the big payday or this or that, but I think the Alouettes are definitely one we should worry about again this year.
Yeah, Montreal's free agent list somewhere just below 25 names of pending free agents. 10 of them have been re-signed already. So they've brought back a lot of the core and a lot of the main pieces we expected them to bring back from the list. I just want clarity at the running back position from them, because this year it was a mess with Stanback, Antwi, and then Walter Fletcher, who last free agent frenzy show we were all but sure would go somewhere else and not join the 3 backlog jam there. But that was confusing all year long because either Stanback was injured or he was in, and then Fletcher was out. I just want clarity. And I know lots of teams are kind of running the 1A, 1B system now, but don't give me a 1C in there as a fantasy player. I want to know who's getting the touches in Montreal. And I think a guy like Antwi has shown some promise and could be a guy that if they want to flip the ratio a little bit at the position, maybe they lean on him a little more heavily. Maybe you go with the dual back system of him, Johnny Augustine, another Canadian back from Winnipeg. You bring him into a dual Canadian back system. There's potentially an option there as well if you don't bring back one of the big guns. And I love the defensive moves. Also, I really like Najee Murray. I think he is a mainstay in that defensive backfield. So happy to see them bring back the defense that won them the championship, because that defense carried them all the way there. And then the offense came to life and got it done. So those are your any other thoughts, Montreal?
Did they bring back Sankey already? Was that one from before? Okay, that's good.
Yeah.
Lemon too, or
yeah.
Okay, good. Yeah. No, their defense I think is going to be scary. It was one of those defenses you weren't sure about this time last year, but they showed up.
Absolutely. So those are updates from this past week on all of the teams around the CFL. We did ask for fan questions again, and we got one from our good friend Richard here, I believe. What is everyone's football fan etiquette? And one or two things you can't stand that other fans do. Trey, I'm going to go to you first on this one. You seem like an opinionated guy on these things.
I hate the snowballs. Like, I don't be throwing snowballs onto the field, Buffalo. It's always Buffalo. Like, they're not a bad fan base, but like every touchdown you saw them, like it should be an automatic 15 the second something gets thrown from the fan. I guess you can't always prove that it was a Buffalo fan, and I guess that's the argument, but something. You can't be having fans throw snow. You can't be having them throw it at Patrick Mahomes before or after the play or the game. That one pisses me off beyond belief. Other than that, I don't care. Just no streaking because I don't want to see that. Adam?
Not kidding. Anyways, no. My biggest pet peeve, in Saskatchewan, is two things. One, I am so sick of hearing Sweet Caroline when we go on offense and all of a sudden everybody goes, bah, bah, bah. Like, come on, really? Are you so going to do that every time? Anyways, and the other thing is, and I know the Fiffles podcast over in Regina has brought this one up a pile of times. Stop doing the wave on offense. People, you got to learn, not to make noise when the offense is on the field. Yeah, it's loud and everybody, hey!
Should we start doing the wave while Adam's talking?
Yeah, near the end of the season, there's always some drunk idiots starting "Go Bombers, Go" when we're on offense, and it's like you can tell that they're not a football fan, and it's like, gets annoying. I tell them to shut the hell up. I use other words that I won't put on the podcast tonight, but yeah, I tell them to shut up and look at my girlfriend. Like, what are they doing? But there's always some drunk idiot in the upper section, Ryan.
And also honorable mention to Montreal guys that blow that horn all the time.
Yes.
But that's more I'm just jealous because I can't do it in Regina. So.
No, I don't know. I was listening to this other podcast I listened to, and they talk about booing and stuff. Like, I have no problem if you boo the other team. I have no problem if you boo your own team. You shouldn't be harassing a kicker until he deletes his Twitter. Again, Buffalo or anything like that. Keep it on the field. Once you leave the stadium, if you want to call into your after show radio show, fine. If you need to vent, but don't attack a guy and his family or whatever. It's
don't put manure on the guy's lawn either.
At the end of the day, it's a game. Your life is not my life did not get significantly better just because the Bombers won 2 of the last 4. It's nice, but it's not like we got a check. It's not like we got our lives changed. It's not.
Hey, we both got a ring though.
Yeah, I got some rings, but those are probably $20 because it gives my hand a rash, whatever metal they put in there. But it's the zinc or lead-based paint or something, I'm sure. But no, I don't know. The fans have been. It's stupid. And fans who think their team is just perfect. I hate that. Like Winnipeg Jet fans, man. It just.
This year they're kind of right
now, but we're still gonna get swept first round. Watch it, but it's the fans like, oh, this guy's great. When you just think the guy just shits gold bricks. It's just no. Every team has faults. There's no team. One team went undefeated in football, and that's the only perfection I want to talk about. You know what I mean? Other than that, no one's going 82-0 in hockey. No one's going 162 in baseball. Just get over it. Your team has flaws.
Oilers went 14-0.
Who did?
Oilers are 13.
That's what I mean. But they still have faults too, and and they're bringing in Corey Perry, who should be decent. So whatever.
See Jack Campbell. That's all I need to say to them. Anyways, that's pretty much my big thing. The other one also is guys going and running past you back and forth all night.
Yeah.
Going to the bar, going to drink, going to beers, going to whatever. You know what? You're there to watch a football game. I'm in the front rows for a reason because I really want to watch this game. You better sit down because I'm getting sick of moving every time.
You know what I can. Oh,
sorry,
you go, Ryan. You go, Ryan.
I think I can sum up my whole philosophy in just do what you want to enjoy the game, but do it responsibly and don't harm somebody else's enjoyment in the way you enjoy it, right? Kind of sums up all of this, really. And kind of what you're saying as well, Trey, of it's sports. Sports is entertainment. Sports is not a personal thing as a fan, right? Some more so than others, but at the end of the day, it's just enjoy the game. Right. And that's something I've personally grown a lot more into in recent years where somebody asked me last time, what team do you actually cheer for? And I'm pretty pumped that that's a question that actually comes up after this many episodes of the podcast because, I'm a Bombers fan. I have season tickets for the Bombers, but I've more so detached myself from caring as much about the result, and more so I just want to see a good football game. If they lose in the most dramatic fashion, hey, great day. So, trying to detach that a little bit and stop with the death threats and things like that.
I was actually thinking about the beer.
Also, like, don't go after refs. Refs don't decide games.
Yeah, oh yeah.
Players do something to make the ref decide, or make the ref have to make a decision.
That was going to be my big. If we want to talk like pet peeves, it's booing for a flag or complaining that a flag doesn't come out on almost every play when it clearly wasn't a flag.
And this is one thing that I always see. I'm like I sit in the highest possible spot. So on those like kickoff returns, and they're going crazy, I see that flag like back on the 5. So I immediately I think every idiot in the section who's cheering right now, like I'm like, why are we doing this? But maybe they don't see it. It just happens all the time that the second I see that flag, I sit down, I'm done. And I always get other guys looking at me like, wait, why is this guy not cheering? And then it's the holding 33 on Bombers or whatever. And I'm like, nah, that's what it is. And it's like, but you don't boo the ref. It's holding. Like the one, I mean, they're human. And if you want to blame anybody, blame the league that we don't just have unlimited replay. You know what I mean? It's not unlimited. It's we're 2024. We can we're trying to put a man on Mars, but we still do first downs with 2 guys in a chain, right? Like, and I'm not saying we should change it because the human element makes sports, right? Like, was it Maradona got the handball in the World Cup? Like that makes the story that we listen to, or that San Francisco ball that hit the ground supposedly, right? Or crazy things like that. It's what we need.
Yeah, I'm the same way. Like the booing every call. Like if you slow down the replay and look at it often enough, like you can find a way to justify almost both sides of almost every close call there is, and these guys are making the calls in real time. Like the refs don't get enough credit for the job they do, and it is never a job I would want to do because there is no praise involved in that job. Ref and offensive lineman, 2 jobs that I will never do.
I think there's a shortage of just like kid refs right now, or kid umpires. I see that in Winnipeg every year. Like it's hard enough being a professional one if you want your kids. Like there's a video today I was watching something that a dad was booing a 14-year-old girl's basketball game. Like who's doing that? Like you know what I mean? It's ridiculous.
And hockey parents. I mean, I've been watching some of them, and oh my gosh, like the guy's a senior kid, like he's already like in drinking age or worse, and you're booing him. I mean, what are you doing? Like at this point, it's for rec hockey. It's fun. It's just, and like I say, you go and watch some of these U10, 11, U13 games around the area, and the refs are getting booed mercifully. I mean, here's like what I tell all of our players is don't let the ref decide. Just don't do something stupid to make it
right. Right.
Like, then you don't have to worry about any of the refs.
Anyway. I was just talking about it today too. Like, at what age do you kind of like start? Because I was like, I wouldn't definitely do kids, like anything under that. But then you start getting into that weird, let's say hockey, like going to a Brandon Wheat Kings game, they're a little bit more pro. Team Canada and the juniors, a little bit more pro. College, hey, some of those guys are getting paid millions in name, image, and likeness and free scholarships. It's a tough line, but and I was just telling in the group chat, some of these people are getting booed at 16. They should be used to it by 22 in college, you would think, but I would love to be booed. I would love it. Just boo, throw your snowballs, throw your beer cans, and then I'm going to go put up 60 on you. Like that's, that's what I'm going to do.
Yeah, like, I mean, refs, I mean, they're getting booed at the U13 level because, you know what, kids are possibly going to get drafted at that point to Bantam or get drafted into the dub or whatever, right?
See, I'm the biggest trash talker in slow pitch. Somebody was mad at me and I made the game-winning catch, so I pretend to sign the ball and give it to her. Because she was mad that I slid at her by act. I didn't slide right, so this girl is mad at me. And I'm like, well, don't play co-ed ball if you don't want to get bumped at second base, right? So then she was booing me the rest of the game. So I was like, here's the ball.
That would have been a maximum fine from the NFL on that one. And all of this talk, like, on the other side of things, like, totally understand the passion for sports for people as well. And sports for a lot of people is like a relief from like everyday stress and things like that as well. I totally get that. And like, that's definitely fine to do, to be passionate about your sports teams and that. But, you know, at the end of the day, yeah, it'll be okay. It will be okay if your sports team loses. And enjoy the ride. Our team lost here in Winnipeg for 29 years straight. You'll find a championship eventually, and it will be great.
Yeah, and we lost our hockey team. We lost, you know, it's okay. It all comes back.
Yeah, you always get your team back. No worries. Right, Winnipeg?
Yep.
I don't want to lose the gold eyes. I like the gold eyes. The gold eyes.
They're still going strong.
Oh yeah.
Do we want to do NFL picks too?
Let me just. Yeah. For sure. What is the first game's the NFC, right? San Fran hosting Detroit, and then it's KC going into Baltimore. We're not doing lines, just straight out money line. Boy, oh boy. I mean, the script's already been leaked. We know the logo color. We saw that. Did you see that picture of that news report or whatever that had it already on? We know what it's going to be, but if anything, I think the NFL should do an audible and have the Eminem Taylor Swift Bowl, right? And they have a rap battle, and of course, the rap god Mom Spaghetti will win. But I'll take Detroit. I'm going to take Detroit over San Francisco, and I will take Baltimore over Kansas City if it's not rigged. I'll take that. Ryan, you were here last week, so what do you got? I think I went. No, I was 2-2. I thought I was 3-1 because I thought Buffalo had it, and.
I think I was garbage last week again. My picks have not been great in the playoffs so far.
And then I thought Green Bay had it too. Both of my losses were heartbreakers, really. So,
who did Detroit play again?
Detroit played Tampa.
Oh, right. Yes. It was an 8-point victory on that one, I think. I'm gonna go with San Francisco on this one. They've been too good all year long. It seems like teams are having a tough time stopping them. Brock Purdy gets it done.
Yeah, they looked human against Green Bay, though. That's what I mean. Green Bay almost had them, and I think Detroit's better than Green Bay, but maybe another week.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with San Fran there, and I'm gonna take Kansas City again. I'm going with the Mahomes magic in the playoffs. He's too good in the playoffs. He gets it done. I wasn't pleased with how they played all season, but I think it's one of those things where you see that in sports, the same teams make it deep year after year, and it just becomes an experience thing more often than not, right? Of playing in big games like that, and they put money. So, I'm going to take Kansas City to go to the Super Bowl here.
I'm going to go with the two quarterbacks that I think were destined to make the Super Bowl this year. I know the colors won't match. But I'm going to take the Detroit Lions because Jared Goff really has looked amazing this year all throughout. He wants his vengeance. He wants to show the Rams what they're missing. So I'm going to go with the Detroit Lions. Plus, I really, really want to see that fan base win a Super Bowl. Detroit may not exist after that. I'm just saying.
Yeah.
And also, I want to see Tim Allen out there with Eminem. That'd be hilarious. Anyways, on the other side, I'm going to go with Lamar Jackson and the Ravens. I just think that they're a really good defensive team. They aren't like that team that took them all the way to the Super Bowl that year and won it for them. But they're a very good defensive team. I don't know. Something's got to switch with Mahomes. I think this is the year that the magic finally starts to die, especially on the road. So, yeah, give me the Ravens. Give me the Lions.
All right.
So Ryan, me and Adam aligned. Ryan, you went complete opposite. So,
well, congrats, you guys are going 2-0. So that trend continues. That's most likely the case.
So Trey, you following wrestling any amount because Royal Rumble weekend?
I'm not a wrestler, man. I can't do it because it's fake. I can't do it. At least all other.
Go with The Rock winning it.
At least all other sports, they pretend it's real. You know what I mean, and stuff. But no, I had a bad weekend in UFC. I went every Canadian male lost, and it was like rough. Where I think when Vancouver Canadians were 6-0, and then we were 2-7 this time, so I didn't do too. But I got the final fight right, which is the main.
Interesting chant at that one.
Yeah. I want to know where Strickland got that shirt he was wearing. If you haven't seen that,
I seen it.
That guy's crazy, man. Like it's crazy. Anyway.
I don't know what you guys are talking about.
He's just the biggest nut job ever, and the UFC promotes guys like that, and that's where it loses me. I don't mind the two guys in the octagon battling it out, but we don't need to be talking about people's families and wives, and it's just make Canada great again t-shirts. And
great.
And the best one, he's like, I'm surprised they let me have a microphone in Canada or something. I was like, yeah. So it's just, when you get these Americans on their First Amendment, it's fun.
On that note, let's wrap it up.
Yeah.
All right. We'll probably be back again next week.
Yeah,
We're kind of going weekly, heading up towards free agency because we have a lot of news to talk about every week. So look forward to another episode, presumably again 1 week from now. And we're getting ready for Free Agent Frenzy 2024, February 13th, 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. Central Time, 8 hours of live coverage and analysis of the opening of CFL Free Agency 2024. We'll be live on all of our different video platforms, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Twitch, the Game Time TV YouTube page for that as well. Also trying to see if I can rig it up. I know I got some questions. Can we get just an audio feed going for folks who can listen to audio only for the live stream? I will see what I can make happen, but might have some technical limitations on that. But we'll see what we can do on that. But yes, look forward to that. Join us there. Help us spread the news as well. We put a lot of work into organizing this and planning it every year. And it's a very long day. So help us spread the news, get more people joining us, and it'll be more fun with the chat flowing throughout the day where you can leave your comments and questions there for us as well. So that's what's coming up in the near future. Of course, I'll be there. Mike should be joining us for that as well. And we've got our two insiders, Trey and Adam, who will be doing a lot of work behind the scenes and on camera here and there as well. But looking forward to going through that on the 13th. In the meantime, check out the Discord community as well. I post the links to the CFL news every time I see one. I post them in the CFL channel there. There's chatter going on around it there as well, so you can check that out. There is a link in the episode description to join the Discord community and all the fun we have over there. And, of course, if you want to follow us on social media, you can find us there on X as well, at CF Countdown Pod, facebook.com/CF Countdown Pod. Also, you can find me on Twitter at CooperTrooper42. Mike is at Mike Garrell. And speaking of our two insiders here, Trey and Adam, Trey, starting with you, where can people find you?
You can find me at Trey Hardest Link for all your, I really don't post too much football insider stuff, but UFC and horse racing stuff. So yeah, that's where you can catch me at. For Adam, buddy, what do you got going on? Hockey? How's our Buffaloes doing?
Well, big win last weekend, 6-0 against the Churchbridge Imperials. Nice little shutout from our backup goalie, Adam Stokes. So that was kind of cool. Big weekend, though. We got the Swan Valley Axemen. Almost said Stampeders. That's MJHL. Going to be a big game against the Axemen this weekend, and then off to Wapella to play the Blackhawks. 3 games left in regular season, then it becomes the real challenge. Playoffs start, and we've got provincial playoffs coming up against the Central Butte Flyers, which I know everybody on this podcast knows where Central Butte is.
Oh, yeah. It's somewhere in the middle, right? Central?
Actually, it really is.
There we go.
Just north of Moose Jaw. Anyways, we got that for provincials coming up.
You say that Butte? I've always called it Central Butt. I know what you're talking about. That's funny. That's funny. I'm not even kidding. I don't know.
Yeah. January 10th, we go and play the Buttes from Central. So we play them on the 10th, I think, in Theodore, and then go out there for it's a best of 3 all these provincials. So that'll be fun. So you can follow me all for that at AdamSword1. Or if you really want to board and really want to follow the senior team, it's at Theodore Buffs. What the heck? Throw us a follow there if you get a second to.
And if you want to see Adam build his farming simulator, spam him on social media at Adam Stewart One to convince him to start streaming that for us as well.
You really don't want to see that. I'm not a professional coach like Trey. I'm just saying.
Yeah. I gotta get my UFC up. I didn't do that this weekend, so definitely some this week.
Yeah, we'll get back to the CFC Maddencast at some point here as well throughout the off season. Once we find the time when there's not this slam of CFL news every week, we'll get more episodes of that. If you check out the YouTube channel, also check out all the other great shows we're affiliated with. The Canadian Football Podcast Network. You can find at CF Pod Network on Twitter. All the shows there. Make sure you check out the Alternative Football Network as well, alternativefootballnetwork.com, at the official AFN on Twitter/X. Whatever podcast platform you are listening on or watching on, we appreciate if you do all those fun things. Leave a like, a comment, a subscription, rate, review, share the show with your friends. Help us grow the show. We always appreciate that very much. On behalf of Adam and Trey, I'm Ryan saying thank you for listening. Take care. Have a good one. Bye.